Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking around with us for throughout this very intensive and highly informative day. I've learned quite a lot. I hope you guys share that with me. To continue our mission for the day, we have a panel discussion on startup growth by acquisition. Please help me welcome to the stage Karim Khorshed, CEO of Cequens, Ms. Sahar Salama, founder and CEO of TPAY Mobile, that will be discussing more on startup growth by acquisition. This talk will be moderated by Ms. Mukhaizeem, managing partner of Savour Ventures and co-founder of Sirdab Lab. Help me welcome them onto the stage.
Masal khair and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Startup Growth by Acquisition panel. Over the past 3 years, the MENA has witnessed over 45 mergers and acquisitions in the tech startup industry. Our speakers today are responsible for 3 out of these 45 acquisitions. Today, we'll hear about their experience, specifically regarding these acquisitions. Sahar, if you can please tell us a brief about yourself. And I have your bio here, so if you miss anything, I'm going to remind you. If you add something, I'll question you about it. So.
No, so brief.
Thanks.
My name is Sahar Salama. I'm the founder and CEO of TPAY Mobile. TPAY Mobile, just briefly to give an idea, is a payment platform related to one flavor of payment, which is direct carrier billing mobile payment platform. We established the company in 2014. We operate in the Middle East and North African region in 15 countries. We do the business with B2B to B kind of model, where we're connected to all of the backends of the operators, meaning the MNOs of the region from one side, and connected to lots of online businesses and industry sectors on the other side, using our payment method as an alternative payment methods to the other options in the region. So this is briefly me and TPAY.
Thank you. Karim?
Yes, hello. My name is Karim Khorshed. I am a co-founder of Cequens. Cequens, we are a communication platform. We provide APIs for SMS and voice. Mainly our customers are entrepreneurs, startups, and developers trying to establish or build applications on top of our platform to enable customer engagement, notifications, and delivery of authentication services, in addition to identity management. The company established 2011. We do operate our headquarters in Egypt with branch offices in Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, in UAE, and Netherlands, in addition to UK.
Thank you. Karim and Sahar, you both recently made your first acquisitions. Tell us more about that. Specifically, why did you decide to acquire, and how did you know you were ready? And Karim, please, when you answer, just make sure the mic is closer to you. Thank you.
So actually, more and more during the last 3 to 4 years, which is the lifetime of TPAY as a company, we've been much more exposed into the ecosystem of the startups, the investment culture, and the growth by acquisition, and hearing about the big exits and the big names and the big deals that are happening more and more. TPAY had always been keen on being on the track of an accelerated growth track. So actually, growth by acquisition is a very efficient way or method of growing if you do the right choices and you do the right steps. So it was being creative about the opportunity to find it, having the guts to really do the decision of moving such investment from the working capital within your company to a much more lucrative ROI kind of cycle that can be injected into the business, and of course, being capable to really demonstrate easily for the shareholders and the rest of the company the value compared to other alternatives that you can do for the purpose of growing your own business. So these combined have been the why we choose this method, and we really saw it the right step that so far, you know, that we had done, and we're really willing to do more and more actually as we move on our roadmap.
And so the company you acquired, sorry, just as a follow-up, it's in Egypt, right?
Yeah, the company I acquired is a small player in the same industry sector in Egypt.
Okay.
And it was very clear synergy, fast access, very clear ROI, very clear let's say, opportunity that we didn't want to pass without really leveraging over it coming on our
And you had operations in Egypt before that, or was it your, okay.
Yes, actually.
So it enhanced your
So we've been there in Egypt for a while. We know the company, we know the exact performance and value and everything. So it helped a lot into making the process moving smoothly end to end, and having an agreement done and having an execution fast enough to really demonstrate the ROI of such thinking or proposition at the beginning.
Thank you. Karim?
Yes, actually for us, we don't see acquisition as a strategy, more as a tactic. Because as a startup, you are mainly, your main drivers are to grow your business. The main purpose of a company is to grow its business organically, just simply doing more of whatever you are doing, improving your sales, improving your marketing tactics, iterate on your product, and finding a better product market fit, and continue growing your company. So as a startup, usually when you find good traction for your product and services, you start to grow year over year at maybe 3 digits, and after maybe a couple of years or 3 years, your growth will slow down into 2 digits, and maybe after 5-6 years, you start to reach a maturity for the market which you are operating in. So maybe if you are lucky, you're going to grow at a single digit year over year. So you have to define what's the next chapter in your life. Would you be happy continuing at a gross level of a single digit in a single market, or you decide to expand beyond your market and trying to enter into different markets in the region or even worldwide? So when it comes to acquisitions as a tactic, for us, it is a way of entry into new markets. Mainly, you have always a decision to make. It's about time and it's about cost. Can I do it cheaper to penetrate a new market, or can I do it faster to penetrate a specific market? If there are a specific barrier of entries, you have to make a decision whenever to acquire or do it yourself through opening an office or a branch office and start to penetrate the market by yourself. So for us, our case was actually not an expansion into a foreign market. It's more about acquiring different technology. As a communication provider, we started mainly providing A2P SMS for businesses, and we needed to expand our portfolio into different technology like voice. So our decision to acquire a company mainly operating in the UC industry, or unified communication, was the main driver for the decision to acquire the target company.
Thank you very much. What were the challenges you faced acquiring these companies, if you can name 3 top challenges?
Yep. So basically, the maturity of both sides in order to reach a valuation that is fair for both sides in our region, in our markets, in Egypt. is still not that developed. So this was the first challenge, who's driving and helping in order to make things happen without involving the proper third-party bankers, lawyers, whoever that really can help it and that are available and much advanced outside a country like Egypt, compared to Egypt. The process itself that is not regulated, organized in order to start and end on time and with the proper cost and with the proper timing. At the end, the follow-up on the acquisition decision itself is another challenge in order to conclude the results or the plan as it should be, because sometimes the decision has been made, you put the first, let's say, rules, but then after that, the challenge is always in the very last mile of executing the full value and make it happen. So this is basically what happens.
Right, so this is apart from the post-acquisition integration challenges.
But integration and others. Yes, it is always a challenge to finish every single aspect of the post-decision. The post-decision.
Karim?
For us, answering the question, was it the right decision or not, I guess it's quite challenging. Because when you start to think about acquisitions and you start to build your pipeline of different companies which you can target and do all the exercise related to screening different companies and setting the criteria of evaluation, this company is fitting, this company is not. So if you don't have a very, very clear purpose, why are you doing it, it will be very difficult for you to judge even after you have completed the acquisition and done all the integration stuff and etc. To realize the value from the acquisition itself. We have seen hundreds or tens of acquisitions which failed worldwide. Daimler Chrysler and Mercedes-Benz was a failed type of merger or acquisition. Microsoft and Nokia was a failed acquisition. eBay and Skype was also a failed acquisition. So even giant companies are doing wrong decisions. So when it comes to startups, I guess it's a little bit more challenging to find the right equation and the right value creation from the acquisition which you have made yet. This is very challenging from my perspective. In addition, if you are lucky enough and have you already secured some route of investment, it's always about how to convince your investor this is the right move and the right time to do it. Because as a VC or as an angel investor, I'm seeing the entrepreneur he has to do all the job organically. The concept of taking my money to buy other companies is actually, I don't think that we reach this maturity in our region when it comes to merger and acquisition for startup using VC money. Integration definitely is always a challenge, and from our experience, I would recommend anyone who considering whenever you reach a decision for a yes, you have to start the integration. Don't wait till you finish all the formalities and the legal stuff. Try to do the integration as early as possible.
Thank you. So you were just speaking about the vetting process. From your experience, what would be the top 5 factors that you look at when deciding to acquire a company?
Okay. There are many reasons to acquire a company. One of them is access to customers. This is very straightforward. The concept behind it, when I acquire a company, I have my product and services. I can cross-sell my products to the newly acquired customer base, and this make it very attractive in general from a value creation perspective. Another thing is acquiring technology or product portfolio, which is a typical horizontal type of acquisition. And the last one is entry into new market. For us, our acquisition was mainly in a company was based in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. So for us, it wasn't actually a type of different market or different culture. But when it comes to, currently we are in an evaluation phase of different opportunities in Africa. Africa is a totally different story. You have a language barrier, you have cultural barriers, you have entry barriers. It's a totally different market. So it's becoming very challenging when you consider local acquisition or merger or cross-border acquisitions and merging. So for us, the acquisition which we have made was a straightforward one. We hadn't have any major issues. Integration is lengthy, despite that was an unusual acquisition because we have acquired our parent company. Okay, so the company itself as Cequens was spun off from our parent, from Egypt Network, which is a parent company, and after 6 years we acquired the parent company. So it's very interesting, yes, it's unusual, yes, I know. So we have been very successful, and we saw the integration between both companies will be much easier. Because it was a kind of merger, not an acquisition. Yeah. Difference between merger and acquisition comes when will the management of the target company stay on board or not? If they're gonna stay on board and continue building the new organization or the new company, I consider it a merger. Also, it is related to the deal structure. If the deal structure is no cash involved or more or less a stock swap, in this case, it's also considered a merger. Yeah. For us, we know them, they know us for a quite long time. So the integration was smooth. We haven't any issues related to the integration. Hopefully, our new deal will be similar, but I know it will be much challenging than the last one.
Sahar.
Just back to the point of the factors of decision. So for us, it was the reason of acquiring the merchants or the business side of expanding from the business portfolio of our acquirers, and it's very important when you make such a decision, always to ensure that there is a joint vision and maybe, let's say, DNA that is really similar in order to ensure that things move smooth after the decision has been made, after the fund. Because if you wake up in the morning as a company and you find yourself changing the ownership, or the owners are changed, but it's not like this. You find yourself in a different environment, with a different management, with a different office, with a different culture. So this is very important to make sure that this type of integration is going to happen easy and smooth, and in order to maximize the ROI, the buy-in of the management themselves or the team themselves has to be there in order to make things really happen in a way, because paperwork is something, and whenever you go into execution, unless the buy-in is there and the spirit is there and the joint interest is there, then things will not go into the right direction. So this is my opinion in a way.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So looking back at your last acquisition, what were the lessons learned, and what would you do differently next time?
For us, lessons learned, we have learned a lot because it was our first acquisition or merger ever. So definitely we have went from the process end to end. It was a totally new experience for us. So we have learned from it a lot. Moving forward, we believe having acquisition, as I said before, a tactic is essential for us. You cannot continue focusing on a few markets because it will reach maturity at a point of time. Markets will not go forever. So if your main objective for your company or for your startup is to grow, definitely you have to have an acquisition strategy or plan in place. Acquisition is not happening by coincidence, so you have to plan for it. It's the same like when you recruit someone or when you build your sales pipeline. It's the same concept. You start to announce that you are interested to acquire companies in different markets, so people start to maybe knocking your doors, or you hire maybe an investment banker who will do the research for you for possible targets, and you start filter your targets based on very clear criteria which you have to set. Because the breadth of companies are endless. There are hundreds of very promising companies everywhere. So to make the right decisions whenever this company is fitting your portfolio and the customer base are similar, in addition to culture fit, I guess it's very important.
From my side, I agree with Karim that in order to really decide to do more steps into this path, then it's a job beside the job. So either you do this investment right in terms of doing the right partnerships with the investment bankers, onboarding the right people from within the company to really do it all the time. But I would say just formalize the process, define it very well, onboard the right, let's say, engines properly, so that it doesn't become a burden or a waste or like on top of the core business, because always you have to continue doing whatever you're doing in terms of your plans, and you have to also execute properly on the side of the selection of the even the execution and everything. So process, I would say it's not as mature and defined in our region, but compared to what we've seen in other sides of the world, where of course professional processes, very strict in times, very clear in schedules, very clear in prerequisites and entry. And so this is how professional we should be, a little bit more and more from within the region, whether we're targeting companies from within the regions, or being a target for external companies, or being merging with international partners or companies as well. So this would be my next to do.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you for sharing your insights and experience with us. Thank you everyone who's attended, and thank you ArabNet for providing us with this amazing platform. Thank you.
Thank you.